I'd like to call the final meeting of the Cherokee Village City Council to order. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us have a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Rowland. Here. Christopher.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Hasley. Ishmael.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Quorum established.
Thank you. Any public comments on the items on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes from the November council meeting and the meeting on December 1.
I make a motion that we accept them as presented. I second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith, to approve the minutes from those two meetings to be filed for audit. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So be it. Motion passes. Correspondence, we do have one item of correspondence that came late this afternoon. Clerk.
Dear Mayor Stokes and City Council members, effective 12/31/2022, I resign from my position of Cherokee Village Councilman, Ward 1, Position 2. I have enjoyed serving the community and appreciate all that I have learned and the friendships I have made during some challenging times. I wish you all and the city the very best going forward. I will be happy to help in any way during this time of transition. Sincerely, Charles Christopher.
Obviously, I skipped over one item, and that was approval of tonight's agenda. And since we have that resignation from Mr. Christopher, we need to add that under new business. That'll be the last item under new business. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion we approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Martin to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Okay, moving back down, the financial report.
Mayor, I motion that we approve the financials for audit.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the financial report for audit. Do I hear a second?
Yeah. Yes.
They seconded.
Who said? You second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My head stopped up, I can tell you. Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Tatum to approve the financial report for audit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Six yeas and one nay.
Correct.
And messed up. How did that get out of there? Okay, next is the mayor's report. Today I had opportunity to attend the last meeting for me with the White River Development Planning District in Batesville. That's an agency that represents about a 10-county area in northeastern Arkansas. They do a lot of work with grants that cover a broad range of items. Landfills and recycling, and along those lines there's an issue of concern which will and could affect all the communities, counties, and cities, not only within that 10-county area but throughout the state of Arkansas. And that issue is tire disposal. These planning and development districts are responsible for getting rid of tires. And the problem is finding a firm that will accept used tires. There's fees that are charged for an individual, say service station, tire company, or even a private individual. When you turn a tire, normally most of us probably take our cars to be serviced when you buy a new tire or used tire, and we pay a little extra for that. The financial crux of the matter is this. These development districts are receiving $2.16 from the state of Arkansas through ADECT to support the tire disposal program. To dispose of one tire, it costs $4.36. So you can see the problem that has arisen. In this particular district, they're at a situation where they had to go, and there was some unused grant funds going back to 2016. And they voted today to expend that towards the tire expenses, and that only amounted to about $150,000, $160,000. That's barely a drop in the bucket. There's a pending bill, and I don't know what it reads, but that's going to be presented to the state legislature. There were a few newly elected legislators at that meeting, so they're well aware of the issue. And the concern is, if you can't get rid of the tires, what are we going to have here in the state of Arkansas? The tires going to be back in the woods, piled outside the service stations, wherever. So those of you who've lived here in this state for a long, long time before this recycling of tires and disposal of tires got initiated and know what things look like around. And that's a major matter that's facing these agencies. Obviously, they're going to be meeting with the state legislators and their local legislators to make them aware of the issue, and they're just going to have to come up with a better method for funding this program. The other item I have is that on the way out of the meeting, arrangements have been made through a representative from RDOT for us to finally receive payment for that small sliver of property that we sold to them for the low water bridge project. So I signed off on the deeds and received the checks, and they will be deposited accordingly. There'll be some more information coming to you tomorrow about that. So that's all I have in the mayor's report.
Let's move on to department reports. You have animal control. I would add that the survey of that property that we're proposing to buy has been completed, and I guess my math wasn't too bad after all, because what I estimated as the acreage, I said 2.5 acres. It was 2.47 acres. So we'll be preparing an offer to go to SID on that. Anybody have any questions on animal control? The community service. Move on to district court. District court will convene here in this room tomorrow. Fire department, if you have any questions of Chief Dienst. I think we've been pretty fortunate, don't we, Chief? We have very few fires this year, and maybe one out of control brush fire, if you could call it that. But next is the planning and zoning report. You can see that we have an active permit situation going on in terms of construction. And if you drive around the village, you can see the new construction that's occurring, let alone the remodeling, and roofing. I'm surprised that in this cold weather they're trying to put roofs on. You can see where when it's not hot enough, the shingles aren't laying down like they need to.
Planning and zoning.
The,
Is that the bottom? 45. Page 45.
code enforcement. Police Department report. Chief Lane is absent this evening because his son is graduating from the fire academy. In fact, last week, newly hired police officer graduated from the police academy.
I do have one question. Just real quick, I lose every month. We got between 5 and 8 DWIs and public intox. Is there something as a council or the city we can do to help you to get those numbers down?
Not really. That's just general public making a bad decision.
Where they come? Is it coming from the bars? Where's it coming from?
Large percentage of it does come from next door. It comes from the pub, but not all the time. Sometimes sometimes it's just from a residence or somewhere outside the city coming into the city.
And this numbers just kind of concern me. It seemed to be,
We turn everything that's bar related over to ABC to deal with. We can't actually enforce ABC laws, but they do look into it.
that's just concerning. I appreciate you.
Street Department.
Oh, I do have one question on that. We don't have anybody here from the street department.
No.
Did we ever get a resolution on that lady where they didn't want that property, where they cut the limbs too close? Did we ever get a resolution?
We
of that?
did, yes, they went out and did a fantastic job on it. That's right up the street from me. It looks really great. I had a personal conversation with her, and she's satisfied with what happened.
Awesome. Good deal.
Okay, moving on to other reports. Had an A&P report. Mr. Smith or Mr. Rowland, do you have anything to comment on that?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Airport report. It appears that they're removing some of the trees along the 4-lane that have interfered with the landing approach. It looks like more work has been done there as you drive by, but I don't know how much more they're going to do.
I think part of that was Mr. Murphy's acquisition and the clearing that was
Good.
planned by him.
Well, that's good. Have the minutes, P&Z Commission. And the Welcome Center report, I believe that's the same report that was filed last month. Looks familiar.
Make a motion that we accept the reports as presented.
Have a second?
I second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith. Accept all reports as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Reports will be so filed. Next item in the old business is the proposed budget for 2023. We had discussion on that at the December 1 meeting. Is there any further discussion? If not, there is a resolution for approval of the 2023 budget. Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 2022, a resolution to adopt the annual operating budget for the city of Cherokee Village. Whereas the city of Cherokee Village is mandated by state statute to have an annual budget established by February 1st, 2023. And whereas, in order to appropriate funds for the city's general operating, and whereas the city must engage in financial transactions during each calendar year, and whereas the annual budget from time to time is subject to amendment, and whereas the annual budget is subject to review for legislative audit, and whereas the requirement set forth in Section 4 of the Ordinance 2015-3 is partially waived with a percentage determined for the annual budget when submitted for approval. Thus, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, with the concurrence of the mayor. The City Council of the City of Cherokee Village adopts the 2023 budget with the following amendment. Any line item expenditure exceeding the budget amount for the expenditure resulting in the departments being over budget must have prior approval of the mayor. Any appropriations to supplement the operating budget of the city department must be approved by the City Council. Passed and approved by Cherokee Village City Council.
Any questions?
I have one. And I hate that I'm not trying to hold the budget up here, and I can't seem to find it. I know last year, or a couple months ago, we set the salaries for the mayor coming in, and we said that we revisit when we got a new mayor. Did we put that in the budget for this year? We discussed how much the new mayor's pay is going to be?
It's set at the ordinance level.
I know, but we said we were going to revisit it every
Well-
time we got a new mayor.
Correct, and we can revisit it when the new mayor is sitting if you feel that he needs a raise.
But shouldn't it be in this budget?
No,
This
you'll have to
budget
have
is
that.
what the ordinance set it at, which was $16,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when he comes in and the council feels that he needs it increased, then the council can decide what it needs to do.
I just wanted to make sure before we approved it, that's where we were at.
Correct. The only thing to that was at last meeting, I know this is last minute, I said something about the clerk, to put the clerk and the mayor at the same salary, which in that ordinance it was set. But since the clerk was appointed and not elected, I felt there was some question there. So this is the first time the clerk is elected, so maybe she should be set at that same salary. That was my only question from last meeting.
Well, are you talking an increasing her salary or decreasing?
It was an increase by $1,000 to make them both $16,000 rather than 15. What is your current salary? 15 what?
15,000.
15,000.
I
So that was the only difference.
Well, if it's, the ordinance says that, we need to change it.
Well, but the thing is, since she was appointed, does that count? And it's up to the council to decide. Since she was appointed, does that not apply to her? Or since she's just elected, does it apply to her?
Yeah, I would think it would apply to her, and do we need to put that in the budget, or is it something we can revisit after?
We can revisit this after.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hold the budget up,
No,
I just
no.
wanted to know, you know. I
It's
wanna
just
be-
a question
so you
that
should
the
have
council
asked
should-
later, earlier.
I think you'd need to get a legal opinion on that too, when you get to that point.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
Entertain a motion for approval of the budget.
I motion we
Resolution.
approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Thompson for approval of resolution on the 2023 budget. Roll call vote, please.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Abstain?
Rowland,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. As you know, you can amend the budget during the succeeding year when you need to and address issues.
This was my first budget, so I just had some questions I want to make sure. I appreciate y'all's time informing me on that.
The next item is new business. Police vehicles. I said Chief Lane is absent. Sergeant Buchanan, do you have some documentation for us? I hope.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak for a second? Before we get started on this? Can I speak for a second? Guys on the budget committee, it's pretty much, the police need a new vehicle every year. They're pretty much wear worn out of their fleet. Is this not something, which I have no problem with what he's presenting tonight because they need it, but is this not something that can go to the budget committee and can be budgeted in for a new vehicle every year?
That's typically what we do. If we feel like we've got a forecasted income amount that will allow us to do it. Steve has always been very good at getting this included in our budget. We also work at procuring money to go into accounts so we can have reserves available to purchase anything for the fire department or the police department. And those are built into the budget. We're actually reserving money in advance so we have future funds available for those accounts.
Okay, but what I'm asking, is there something just we can put down there every year to get X amount of dollars to buy a new vehicle?
It would be difficult because we can't really forecast our income that far in advance. I mean, if we say we're going to do 100,000 next year and we have a shortfall, then we're obligated to that 100,000, but we don't have the income to cover it. So what we would end up with is a deficit in our budget.
Okay, I understand. I was asking because, you know, it's every police department and every city needs a new vehicle every year. They wear them out, you know.
Believe me, Steve wears us out making sure they have enough money.
Well, some other cities are going to lease programs, and that might be a thing to look into too, instead of purchasing a vehicle. So it's always being rotated.
Well, I think that would be the purpose going forward because, you know, I've spoke with Chief Lane myself, and, you know, the newer we keep, I'm telling you, I don't want to spend money, but the newer we keep these vehicles, the less money we spend in maintenance and everything else.
If
You
I-
know, it saves us money.
If I might
Go.
respond to that. So, first of all, you have to look at where we came from 8 years ago
Right.
and having absolutely no room in the budget for additional capital expenditures without going to the banks. And so, as we've progressed over time, we've evaluated through now 2 chiefs, and we've evaluated the longevity of vehicles. We've evaluated the application within the village, and we've transitioned from what had previously been Dodge Chargers, which both chiefs have been disappointed in durability and
Right.
repairs and so forth. And then we went to the SUVs, and then we found out that actually going with the F-150 trucks, you had a much more durable vehicle, much better residual value and so forth. So we've made that transition. And so far we've got 4 that have been replaced. Well, then COVID hit and all of the supply chain issues and everything that occurred, and I'll let Officer Buchanan, or Sergeant Buchanan, expound on, you know, where we are now. But my understanding is that, you know, we're still experiencing some supply chain issues that have, you know, created rather extensive delays. We also are limited in that Ford is the only manufacturer that is making a true police responder equipped pickup.
Right.
And so the application here in the village, the 4-wheel drive, all those aspects and everything, but I think where we are right now is the reaction last year, in part because of the settlement and what we had to do budget-wise, but that's been compounded with the supply chain issues. So I think we've seen this interruption of, we were on a pattern because we were behind the curve. We were on a pattern of 2 vehicles per year. And then we hit last year in the budget adjustments we had to do, and now the supply chain issue. And I would defer any additional comments I might have until I hear what.
I wasn't trying, I was
Buchanan
just
has.
wondering why it wasn't budgeted in, and thank you for explaining it. You know, I've only been on the council less than 6 months, so
Sure.
kind of new on this. I just want to make sure that our first responders have what they need to do their job, because if somebody calls and you can't get there because you're broke down on the side of the road, somebody's gonna die.
And I couldn't agree more. You and I are on the same page.
Okay, Sergeant, floor is yours. Speaking to the microphone, please.
To the public that's here, I apologize for not having enough copies. Anybody that wants a copy, I will give you a copy as soon as this is done.
You might want to turn that on. I don't think it's turned on down below.
Yeah, it's on.
Is it? Okay.
All right, so the cover page there is basically a tally, a description of the items, a tally of everything there. The first line, 2023 F-150. We cannot order a 2022 at this time, and we cannot order a 2023. That's already been shut down. I've called dealerships throughout the state, all the way over to California, trying to find a truck. I did find a couple that they have on their lots, but they can't hold them. It's first come, first served. One that I was looking at sold the day I was talking to him. Another one I was looking at, I looked into it a while ago, and it's not there anymore. But we were fortunate enough to have a contact out of the AG's office. They got a hold of Malvern. Little Rock has 30 vehicles reserved for dealership. They're only taking 25 of those, so there's 5 extra that's on order through the dealership at Malvern, and we put a retainer on 2 of them until we hear back from you. So we do have 2 trucks local, but they are not built yet. They're saying estimated around spring, as we've seen last year. They were supposed to be in at spring, and they came in December. The year before that, it was around springtime. They came in, I believe it was like August or so, September. So there's no guarantee we'll have these at that time, but that's the best price for a local area that we can come up with. The equipment that would be required to go into it, most of the equipment is universal. For future reference, if Ford changes their body style, the bed box is not, the front bumper would not be, the console would not be, but pretty much everything else is completely universal that we can take over from one vehicle to another. The prices is MSRP prices on this. I can beat some of these prices, but without having an order placed, I can't get into a contract with them stating that we will send them a check for X amount of equipment on this date. So this is really top dollar, basically. I'm sure I can knock quite a bit off of this if we actually walk into it. The 2023s, the ones on the lot are about $3,000-4,000 higher than what the couple of 22s I found. But once again, this is buying in Arkansas instead of buying in California or New Hampshire or wherever. The price list, each page has kind of a somewhat description. The bumper doesn't have a picture of it, but if you've seen our trucks in the parking lot, you know what the bumpers look like. Our deductible is $1,000. So if we hit a deer, the last vehicle we had fixed was an SUV here just a couple months ago. It was a little, I believe, $4,000 something from hitting a dog. With the bumpers, we've already hit a couple deer with them. We've had one person run into the front of one of our patrol rigs, and we've had 0 damage. So the bumpers are definitely an investment. Any questions, I'll answer for you.
What I would recommend to the council is that they would authorize the department to continue to monitor this situation, and it appears our best opportunity is with the dealer in Little Rock who has the extra
Malvern?
on order. And as soon as something could become available, that your authorization would go ahead to them to secure a contract with that dealer and then come back to council to authorize payment.
So we're going to use ARPA money for that since...
That's up to you all to decide whether you want to use the ARPA money or the money that's in the savings account at FNBC.
Because if he funds... Oh, okay.
So you've got money at both places that could be used for that.
I have a question.
Yes,
So I may have misunderstood, but didn't you say you already had 2 secured?
We have a request on 2. They're not advertising, they have 5 over, so it's kind of one of those connection deals.
But
Once
if
it's-
we were to approve the money tonight, you guys could go ahead and move forward
Yeah.
and you can enter the contract. So if we
Correct.
don't approve the money tonight, then you're still sitting on hold, correct?
Well, if we don't approve tonight and somebody else finds out about it that has money on hand, then it'll probably be going to them.
Yeah.
So yes,
I'd misunderstood you earlier this afternoon when you were talking about that.
I apologize, sir, I don't know.
Okay.
Mr.
In that
Thompson?
case, I would change my recommendation to authorize the expenditure.
Mr. Thompson, do we have enough in the ARPA fund to be able to do that?
Either of those two accounts
Either
will
one.
cover it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then my motion is we take it out of the ARPA fund,
For one or two.
one. Because didn't they get two new ones that were supposed to be delivered last year, this year? Are they fairly recent? What happened to those two?
The two most recent, we ordered
The year before?
in '21,
Okay.
and we ordered them in March, and I believe they were delivered in December.
Not to correct you, the most two recent we were canceled on, but the two before that, yes, we ordered and they were.
So we okay, what's the date of the two most recent trucks we have
Those
that we
are
got?
21 models.
December 21 is when we got them.
So we have two brand new trucks that are a year old.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
And
So
the
that
other,
would put us three relatively new trucks that we could start a program like was being talked about.
If I'm not mistaken, he's asking for two.
Yes, but we have other departments that also might need this funding also. Like I said, roads and streets, everybody complains about that. And if they were better, the police cars would be probably better off in the long run too.
Can we not take one out of each? One out of ARPA and one out of the funds?
That's a possibility if you feel like you want to take and remove some out of the reserve.
I've just advised you to be cautious about that because, as Mr. Martin indicates, there's other departments that may be in need. And the city just bought two vehicles for the police department, and no other expenses have been made for these other departments in the past couple of years.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but since we appropriated funds for the last two police department vehicles, we have authorized and received the skid steer for the
that's
street
right.
department, number one. That was above $70,000. And we also authorized and approved and ordered a fire truck or a vehicle for the fire department in excess of $200,000. In fact, it may be, Chief, correct me on it, but I believe that number is going to come in around $250,000.
The truck itself, we're guessing,
Fully equipped,
right,
all in.
you authorized, I think, 315 all total.
Right. So the fire department, $315,000, the street and road department, in excess of $70,000. Since we took delivery of the police trucks that were ordered in the '21 budget,
Didn't we just authorize the street department a plow truck?
and that was a used truck, I believe that was only about
And then
$8,000.
also animal control got a truck too.
How many miles are on those trucks?
which ones?
The 21s?
Uh,
Or what are the
Around
two
the
that
same.
you're gonna replace? How many
One's
miles
is
are
getting
on?
replaced, around 160 to 180,000, give or take. We have a 2000 and I believe it's a 7 or 8 Charger that's still in fleet. It's the one we put the motor in. Quite a bit of work done to it.
It's one that, my understanding would be, you wouldn't drive it.
Yeah, and well, another thing is, if I'm not mistaken, we authorized the police department to have another officer on duty at night. So they are in need of another vehicle. They did need to have a backup vehicle.
The entire fleet in the police department, I believe, Sergeant, is the 9 vehicles, correct?
Drivable at the moment, yes.
So of the 9 vehicles, you have 4 that have been replaced in the since 2020.
So not even half the fleet.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind just kind of for our benefit and the public's benefit, kind of taking us through how many police officers we have, kind of how their shifts work and how the cars rotate?
Absolutely. So we work 12-hour shifts. And at the moment, we have 1 patrol officer per shift. We have a part-time detective or investigator. And then we have me, which my shift is supposed to be during the day, but obviously if y'all look at my timesheets, it's not. I fluctuate because I'm having to cover shifts. If somebody calls in sick or something like that, so I can't give you a really good example on me. But night shift typically has 2 officers. Since we had the officer cut over the litigation issues, we've been down to having 1 officer on one half of the week and 2 officers on the other. But that being said, due to not being able to retain officers, we keep having to send an officer to the academy, so we're constantly without an officer. We've either got an opening or we've got one that's being trained. Hopefully the pay increases will definitely fix that issue. But as far as patrolling, one of the trucks that we purchased in 20 is actually being driven 7 days a week. We tried not doing that because that racks the miles up on them pretty quick. If an officer's putting 200 miles on a night, you can do the math on that. It depends on how active and busy it is. We are the biggest city in the county. We do try to assist if something really bad happens. So sometimes we might end up on Griffin's Road because we're the first ones there because it's right there. And of course, Griffin's is a little bit rough, so that gives you an idea on that part. But we patrol all the streets in Cherokee Village, whether there's residences on it or not. We look for dump sites, we look for abandoned vehicles, marijuana grows. So some of the roads, it's really rough. It takes its toll on the vehicles.
You also have to, Fulton County also, so your 2 counties you're covering, not
Yes,
just,
sir.
not just Sharp, so that's a lot of miles.
Yes, sir. But as far as patrolling and stuff, it's not a very easy, smooth road, and that was the deal with the Dodge Chargers. They're not very good for roads at all. They're good for the highway, they're great for state police, but not for us. On top of that, our officers do have quite a bit of paperwork to do. We make them do a lot of extra stuff versus any other agency, but we got proof of what's going on and all that. We have our accounts and everything else. So they do spend some time here at the office and are not solely dedicated to the vehicles, but in 12 hours, they typically spend about 10 and a half hours in that vehicle.
Thank you.
And maybe what we should do is get 1 vehicle and plan for maybe another one in the first part of this year, because I haven't talked to the chief or anything. It might behoove us to get a, lack of a better word, a razor or something that's decked out so they can do more of the back area. That's too much of a hassle for them.
I would object to that because to get a fully equipped razor, I mean, you're looking at expending, easily, close to 50%, and then you've got a vehicle that you're going to is going to subject an officer to inclement weather because it's not going to be enclosed. I just think, okay, we're trying to have consistency in our fleet, and I understand and I appreciate your comment, but one
I
of
would
this.
say even, I mean, you're talking, to get a razor.
Yeah, you're only talking
You're still
$105,872 for 2 vehicles now.
It's
A
not
razor's
gonna
gonna
be
be
that
Right.
90% of that.
Yeah.
I think what might be helpful is that until this evening, and Officer Buchanan's comment about what's available through what has been over-ordered by the Little Rock Police Department, the information I had from the dealers we've utilized in the past, I contacted and had a conversation this week with 2 of the dealers that we've been successful in getting vehicles. And they said that based on the current lack of availability for both 22 and 23 models, that they didn't see the log jam and the supply chain breaking until the earliest May for 23. So the thing that is back to the issue of 2 vehicles, which I had originally proposed at a minimum of 1, but the issue of going back to 2 vehicles is because if we have access to that now, we may not see availability for those 2 vehicles until well into the middle part of the year, if then. And so from that standpoint, I would shift my support to go for the 2 vehicles now, and especially if we give that much latitude to the department, then hopefully if they're negotiating for 2, they can get a better price.
Right.
Historically, we've been able to get about 25% off of list. But again, you've had a complete shift in the constraint on the supply chain, and so if you're getting any vehicles below list right now, it's unusual, certainly as far as in the retail area. You know, we've had this historic run of dealers marking up above window sticker or list price. So I personally would authorize the department, I would suggest, and the motion that I would put forward would be that we authorize the department to secure 2 vehicles from this pool that has just, through whatever connections Officer Buchanan has with the Little Rock Police Department, if we can access 2 of their excess inventory or order, I would suggest we pursue that, because I don't think that's going to recur anytime before June.
The price on that is locked up for our rate. So that part, that might have been what you misunderstood earlier, Mr. Mayor, is the price part. But something to finish your question a while ago, we do have a lot of part-time officers that come out and work. The problem is we don't have a way for them to work unless they're in a full-time officer's vehicle, which they have to be basically jobbing with us on our shifts. So if they want to come out and work from, say, 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the afternoon, they're having to jump out of one vehicle and hop in another vehicle with somebody else or exchange vehicles because we don't have the extra for them to do that with. The razor part, that would be great. I'm not going to argue against it, but it is kind of
Okay, I just
long story short, that we'd have more issues off of that, especially for prisoner transport and stuff like that.
We have a motion on the floor for purchase of 1 vehicle. Is there a second to
I
that
rescind
motion?
my motion.
You withdraw it?
I withdraw that motion, and I would ask Mr. Thompson if he would make the motion with a cap on a price. I'd be more than happy to second.
No more than 55,000?
No, he said 2 vehicles.
I mean, no more than 55,000 per vehicle.
Okay,
We're looking at
okay.
52,936 right now.
Yeah.
So, will that work for you?
As some of you know, I'm also an upfitter. I build police vehicles. Sheriff just bought a brand new Tahoe. Tahoes are available, but they're going for right at 48,000. That's law enforcement price. So talking about availability of other options, I do want to throw that out there. There is other options, but they're not cheaper than this. Durango, he did have a couple of Durangos put on standby, but I don't know what the price of them are. But the Durangos weren't really.
And I believe our fleet, for interchangeability, for parts, consistency, and for drivers and everything, I think we ought to be consistent in our fleet and stay with the F-150. My motion is for 2 units, best price available, to allow the department to move forward with 2 units.
Well, I do agree that we need to put a cap on it.
I do
We
too.
do that with everything else that we do.
If you want a cap, then do you believe that 54 gives you enough latitude per unit? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Then my motion is for 54 for 2 units for a total of 108.
There's a second down there.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Tatum, to authorize entering into contract for purchase of 2 units at $54,000 per unit for a total of $108,000. Roll call vote, please.
Now, that was for him to negotiate the best price, but that was the top cap that we would
Right.
spend.
Can we say where we're taking the
Yes.
money from now?
I said the ARPA funds.
Okay.
Do you still believe, or should we take it out of each one?
I think we can address the source, whether we're going to split between ARPA or reserve,
At a later time?
when we get the final numbers from
When
the
you get,
chief.
have
Because
to
right
pay
now,
when you get ready to pay the bill.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Roll call vote, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Yes.
Ishmael.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is,
Sergeant Buchanan, do you care to keep us updated kind of every time this rolls along?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I do have 2 questions, if it's all right. First one, that is for the vehicles and the equipment combined, correct? We went through this a couple of years ago where the equipment wasn't, so I just want to make sure that
That's-
This number is everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what we just approved.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other question, on the equipment, anything that we can order ahead of time to have here, because some things takes 4 to 6 weeks for manufacturing issues. Is there any objections to getting that taken care of, or should we wait till the vehicles are done?
As long as it doesn't exceed $54,000 per vehicle.
Thank you.
I have one thing I would like to say. I would like to make sure, especially the radio equipment, that it's the newest possible because everything's changing.
There is not a radio in this list. We do have issues with the radios. The county is converting over, but that comes back to the grant. The chief gave me the approval to apply for the state police mini-step grant, and I plan to try to utilize them to get some more radio equipment.
So these antennas on here are digital capable?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
One other item, point of information, is that the last 4 vehicles, 4 pickup trucks, Officer Buchanan has donated his time on the installation. So the numbers you're seeing here are not only an advantage number to the actual piece of equipment, but Officer Buchanan is donating his time to install that. And so the city's saving a minimum, my estimation, you're looking at a minimum of $1,500, $2,000 if you were going to a commercial installation and possibly more to dealership. Is that fair?
About $1,200, $1,250 per vehicle.
Okay.
Is that lease program something you guys could look into and get back with us on it?
So if you're referring to what Ash Flat is doing, it's not actually a lease. They just trade the vehicle in whenever the mileage gets at the warranty or the 3-year part. So it seems like it is a lease because on their trade-in, they're only paying like $7,000, $8,000 difference for a brand new vehicle, which is the same concept. The downside on the lease issue is the availability of the vehicles. So if we lease the trucks and we purchase through the lease deal, and our lease is up, but yet the trucks aren't manufactured for us to get to another vehicle, we're without a vehicle. So it leaves us having to borrow something or having to buy something completely different.
But with Ash Flat doing it, since it is not a lease, what you're saying, it's just a deal they have with the...
It's just with the dealership, it's just trading the vehicle in at the warranty point. But
So could we look into something like that? And that way, if we don't see a vehicle in our future, we don't have to trade it in. And if we do, but start something that we're changing out vehicles.
There's pros and cons to both
Okay.
the ownership as well as a frequency of lease. Our immediate problem is getting our police fleet up to par where it should be.
Okay.
And the most efficient way to do that, when we went through this with Chief Crook and Chief Lane, was to do the purchase and move that along in a reasonable process and timing. Perhaps then, once we get all 9 vehicles that are consistent and of a lower mileage, then that certainly might be something to consider.
Mayor-elect Rose could probably answer the questions for Ash Flat better than me, but they're not getting a Drango now, they're having to get a Tahoe because Drangos are no longer available, which he's spending around 40-something thousand for this Tahoe, the last I heard. And he's having to buy it from Illinois or somewhere out of state, that's all I remember.
thank you. Another issue with leasing vehicles, I don't know whether this applies to police vehicles as it does to personal leases, but you have limited mileage on a personal lease of a privately owned vehicle. And as indicated, the size of this city, the number of miles that officers have to drive daily, would probably use that. If that's a part of the criteria, that would use that mileage requirement up rather quick. Okay, the next item is Planning Commission appointees. I have two people to reappoint. Their terms expire at the end of this year. And we had one individual who is indicated on the information I gave you is leaving the commission due to the fact of his absenteeism to miss some meetings. And so I'm recommending that Bruce Hadaway, who's currently serving as chairman, Larry Gorski, who's currently a member, and Joe Wagner, who was a member of the original Planning Commission when the city was first incorporated, has served as chair of this commission and then stepped down due to the litigation that was ongoing. But as indicated in the information I gave you, he's one individual who has spent a lot of his own time and money to become quite familiar with the workings of P&Z commissions and so I think he would be a valuable asset, and I know Mr. Hadaway has recommended him to become a member. So anybody have any questions? I just need a motion to confirm these appointments.
I motion to confirm, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Thompson to confirm these appointees. Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Abstain?
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is the 2021 audit. The reason this is so late coming before you is that when the audit report was filed, and we were under the impression from the auditor who was here there was going to be more information forthcoming, but apparently not. And so as a city, we need to have, as a matter of record, that we received this report recorded in the minutes. That's a part of the audit requirement. So that's the reason this item is being brought before you this evening.
I make a motion, we accept the audit.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith to accept the 2021 and the 2020 audit. Roll call vote, please.
Martin,
Yes?
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We have one, next item is, well, we have a fourth item, didn't we? That's Mr. Christopher, resignation. Effective the end of this month. I would entertain a motion that we accept his resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Smith, to accept Mr. Christopher's resignation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
That wasn't me then.
6 yeas and 1 nay.
On the record. Opposed.
Mr. Christopher, we appreciate your service, and I know this was a difficult decision for you, but we're officially recognizing your resignation. This means that we will open applications for replacement, and at your January meeting, they'll give ample time for people who are interested in applying and turning in a petition. We'll have 10 signatures from people from their ward, and then they can attend the meeting and you all can interview them and just make a decision on who his replacement will be. So that's essentially the process. Anybody has any questions, all I need to do is call into the clerk's office or my office.
Big shoes to fill.
Then moving on from that is comments on city-related business. Have one request.
Did we do that?
Oh, but we don't have to deal with that.
Okay.
We voted on that that December 1 meeting. So
It was in here.
that's just it. That's just for your information to show you that action's been taken. Mr. Jackson.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and everybody here. All you gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen on the city council, you've served, you've given your time, you've donated. We have our loyal opposition here at this end. Thank you. Chief Dent, Mr. Buchanan, thank you very much. Ms. Trumpy. Carrie and I have lived here 37 years. Wonderful place. We're blessed to live here. We're blessed to have friends and neighbors that have contributed much to our lives. And I think you all have fit into that. So thank you very much. We're all here for one reason. Next 10 days from now, Christmas. He's the reason that we're here. So thank you very much. God bless you and have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you for the comments, Dr. Jackson. I guess since this is my final meeting, if you indulge me to make a few comments. One, I've been privileged and blessed to have council members who had vision during the 8 years I've served as mayor to make this city progress. When I came on board, I inherited a situation that was not really financially palatable for a city of this size. That's definitely improved thanks to good management by department supervisors, surprising revenue sources from the U.S. government in terms of ARPA, and the wisdom of the council to provide a source to reserve funds in case of emergencies. When I first campaigned, I said I'm not making any promises. I have some objectives I'd like to accomplish. One of those was, of course, the storm sirens. I think we're still in need of another storm siren in the city of Cherokee Village, possibly up on the Wabash area, and maybe another one in the future farther west in the city. And I think the money would be available for those that run about $18,000. Maybe they've gone up a little more, might be $20,000 apiece. It's important that for us to work together, not only as a council and city and personnel, but the citizens of this community. If things are going to improve and a quality of life that Dr. Jackson referred to continues in the city of Cherokee Village. There was an article, I don't know whether you all had the chance to look at your City and Town magazine. There's a short article in there by the mayor of Cave City, who serves on the executive board of the Municipal League. I would strongly recommend you reading that. It's some good thoughts about how things are going and how things should go differently. The only other thing I would add is I would caution on our money. Our revenue has improved. Since I've been mayor, there have been 6 businesses opened up in the city of Cherokee Village. And we've had 1 business close. Naturally, any city can use more commercial. And our new construction is bringing additional revenue in, and hopefully that will continue because we have people from Jonesboro and surrounding states that can commute here in a reasonable amount of time, and they're building vacation homes. And we have people that are now moving in from out of state, way out of state. In fact, I've got a new neighbor now from Florida, and they they purchased this house sight unseen. They wanted to come here. They liked the way it looked. But you have people from California and other states that are coming to a place where they feel it's a little safer, although it might be a little slower. They enjoy the natural beauty and the quiet, and maybe taking a little while to adjust, but I'm referring to my neighbor, and he and his wife both enjoy it, and they've only been here about a couple of weeks or 3, and they're dealing with some home moving in issues. Aside from that, I thank everybody for their support and the time that I've spent, and it's really time to move on. At my age, I retired once after 30, about as long as Dr. Jackson's been living here, 35 years of professional work in the field of education. And so this is another job, and there's a lot of challenges and complexities involved with it. Mr. Rose, you're going to find that out come January the 2nd. Although that's a day off, City Hall will be closed, but officially January the 3rd, be going to work. And so good luck to you. That's all I have. I'll entertain it. Thank you. You can sit down. I don't need all that applause, I tell you.
Well, now we need one for Chuck.
Yeah. Chuck has been good about coming to my office many, many occasions, and we've had lots of discussions about city business. We not always agreed with each other, but we've got a lot of information shared back and forth, and he's been a valuable member of City Council. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
Before do we need to put the 2 salaries on the January agenda?
Yeah.
So we need to put the, okay.
But remember, we need to get a legal opinion.
Right.
It's not a legal thing, it's what the council decides. The council has to, set a precedence on if a person that has been appointed is a new person, or a person that is appointed is not a new person because they were just elected. So the council will set that precedent.
I think that, that's going to require a legal opinion in terms of election and appointee.
And I agree with Ms. Rowland. We need an opinion from council.
So do we need to put it on the agenda for January?
We can.
Do I have a second on motion to adjourn?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.